I was ordained into the PCA in 1975, and I went to my first General Assembly a month later. And it was the third General Assembly that was held in Jackson, Mississippi. And the PCA was less than 2 years old. But when I got to the General Assembly, I talked to a lot of the founders who were happy to have a new kid on the block, you might say. And here's what they told me, and I was so excited. They said that we are going to have a denomination that combines classic, Orthodox, confessional, historic, Reformed theology with mission. And they actually said one of the reasons they were actually having an entirely new denomination was because they felt like so many of the people that were sold out for the Great Commission were not Reformed. And so many of the Reformed denominations they knew of that were Orthodox and historic and confessional, not liberal, they weren't actually sold out for the Great Commission. And so they wanted to be a denomination who did both. And that just excited me, theology and mission.
Why do I hope you will support the Alliance and its work? Let me tell you a story. When I started as a student at Covenant Seminary, I'd only been a Christian for about 5 years. I didn't know what the PCA was, let alone Reformed theology. But I was welcomed by my professors. I was loved and encouraged and sought after. I was taught about disappearing Hebrew vowels just like my brothers. I was encouraged to be a part of discussions about theology and the work of the church. I was commissioned to write music for the day of prayer. I'm so encouraged and thankful for how my brothers loved me and encouraged me over those years. The fruit of all of that and now those relationships has been Bible studies co-written that are used around the world, opportunities to teach at women's conferences, and now to mentor the next generation of women at Covenant Seminary. I was sad in the years following and discouraged to learn that my opportunity was not the norm for women in the PCA. Some were not welcomed, but warned to limit their places of service to a few specific areas. Some were discouraged or disheartened by their churches, unsure of how much of themselves they should bring to the work of the kingdom. Some were unequipped to do the work God had asked them to do. None of this is the way that it should be. The world will gladly tell women how they have to look, what they have to do, how they have to achieve to be valued. But we as a denomination have an opportunity to tell them something different. We can tell those created with dignity in God's image how Jesus is still counterculturally seeking women to sit at his feet and be his disciples. We have the opportunity to be a place where women are boldly welcomed and encouraged as co-laborers in the kingdom, all within our doctrinal standards. What if the PCA were a place known for loving women well? What if our institutions and churches were known for encouraging and equipping a generation of women who, like Mary and Priscilla and Lois and Lydia and all after them, poured out their lives in service of the King? It'll take all of us, and it'll take work. But with the Spirit's help, we can make it happen.
When I came into the PCA about 20 years ago, one of the things that really drew me in was the stated motto of the PCA, that the PCA was faithful to the scriptures, true to the Reformed faith, and obedient to the Great Commission. And what was particularly moving to me 20 years ago, and what drew me in, was specifically the conversations that I had with people in which they saw cross-cultural love as an act of being faithful to the scriptures. And they saw cross-cultural love as an expression of being true to the Reformed faith. And they saw cross-cultural love as an act of being obedient to the Great Commission. I've been deeply encouraged over the years by the way in which this denomination has tried to strive to make right things that have been wrong in the past in terms of our ability as Christians to be attuned to the needs of our neighbors and sensitive to the cultural contours in which we have to do ministry. But I think in the last couple of years, we have struggled and have grown more polarized and tribalized, if you will, and particularly in our denomination. And that's one of the reasons why I'm excited about the Alliance for Mission Renewal and this website that we're trying to build, because it's an opportunity for us to return to these stated convictions that we have. and to see the opportunity before us. It's like the fields are ripe for harvest. And I can even speak from my own ministry work on the ground in Washington, D.C., where there's people from all different walks of life who are growing curious about the Christian faith. And it's because of the witness of a diversity of believers who all find their source in the triune God and in the centrality of the gospel, which translates into the good works, engaging in the world in service and love and bringing clarity to the real purpose of life under God's reign and living for his glory.
That unity, that clarity, that liberty which we have as churches is something to be cherished, deepened, and furthered. And in many ways, that's what the Alliance is all about. We want to see our churches renewed, and we want to see the mission go forward. And that's going to take an alliance of people across the PCA and across the country, from New York to Seattle and from Los Angeles back across to Florida and everywhere in between, men and women, officers and members in every walk of life are going to be needed to pull together, encourage each other, and share together the various graces that God's bestowed in our lives, so that churches are not only strengthened and grow, but some are renewed and new ones planted, and the mission of the gospel goes forward, not only in our hearts and in our families and in our communities, but around the world.
The website has particular facility there because years ago I started with Don Carson, the Gospel Coalition. And in the beginning, we had no idea. We wanted a website because everybody said you have to have a website. We had no idea the power that that website was going to exert. Because what the Gospel Coalition was trying to do, it was trying to speak into the evangelical world in general and trying to nudge it and direct it in good directions. Now, this website, we're trying to speak into the PCA world, and we're trying to show people this is the way we're going to be able to combine theology and mission. And so it has a tremendous potential to do that. So please help us to establish this. And we believe it will not only enable the PCA to be true to its roots, but it will encourage many, many, many people as well.